family. It's your sister, Reverend Jocelyn here, and welcome to another episode of Faith on the Journey. If this is your first time tuning in, we welcome you. We're so glad that you are here and want you to know that we're committed to helping you strengthen your faith, heal your heart, and discover a sense of community. And we do so through a variety of ways by connecting you with a team of Christian counselors and offering trauma healing trainings across the country. You can learn about these resources and so much more by visiting our website at faithonthejourney.org. Again, that is faithonthejourney.org. Now, today, I am so excited to introduce a brother who I've known for, I almost feel like 15, 20 years. I mean, I'm not trying to age us or anything, but it's been a long time. And I've always admired him because he was multi talented. He was a go-getter. He had that grind spirit about him, and he's an overcomer. And so this is someone who I get to call brother, I get to call friend, and I also get to call him author, which I'm very excited about as I introduce him. And his name is Quinton Diamond Q James, and he is a nationally recognized talent strategist, leadership coach, and proud graduate of Florida A&M. With 20 years of HR experience at companies like Bank of America and Exelon, he's known for helping organizations from the C-suite to entry level build strong teams. He's also the creator of a powerful mentorship platform and the author, get this, of 52 Ways to Get Your Blank Together. Y'all thought I cursed. Y'all get your head out the gutter, okay? But he's bold and inspiring. He has this bold and inspiring guide to help people transform their career and life through this book. And so Quinton's mantra remains success is earned through endurance. And he's here to talk about that today. So, Quinton, thank you for being here.
Oh, I appreciate it. Oh man, listen, let me tell you something. Jocelyn, hearing you say all of that stuff about me, I have to take you everywhere with me. So people can know the greatness that you bestowed, because I don't think I could have did any better. So I gotta pay you like maybe, I don't know, for every word you said, probably $100 or something. So thank you for that. That was real humbling.
It's all from the heart, all from the heart, Q. We go way back, right? So, and you got this
Like
new
a
book.
Cadillac on four flats, okay?
That's right. That's right. That's right, man. And I'm really proud of you for releasing your new book, and we're going to talk about this in just a second. But before we do, one of the questions I always like to ask those who I interview is to tell us a little bit about your story. And when I say this, Quentin, because I know you have a story of resilience and overcoming, and I want my audience to know that about you. So talk about some of the things that have shaped you from your past.
Yeah. Oh wow. That's loaded and deep. I don't even think we'll be able to do all of that in 30 minutes, but I'll do my very best to kind of highlight some few points. Well, real quickly to everybody, I just want you all to know y'all are blessed to every single time that she puts out some information, especially the Faith on the Journey family. Y'all are extremely blessed to have Jocelyn and just her tenacity, resilience, and her vision of what she does. So thank you for letting me get you all's ears, because I don't take that lightly. But again, I'm actually from the South Side of Chicago, single parent home, humble beginnings. My whole family actually were traditional business owners in some right. I actually grew up in the Wild Hundreds, as they call it, or the Rosen community, depending on what generation you come from. I don't think everybody calls it the Wild Hundreds, but my generation did from that standpoint. And I grew up in between. She said, "Yeah, me too." And I grew up in the middle. And I say this not to echo where I came from, but just to show you all the reality of what I grew up in. I grew up in between a alcoholic family and a drug infested a family as well. So I saw a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have seen when I was young. And I think it did mold me to understand the difference between common sense and street sense, as they call it from that point. But I would say this: my mom did extremely well making sure that I wasn't overly inundated in that environment. Because it was just like I said, me, my mom, my brother, and my grandmother. That's all who stayed at that house. So you can only understand. I was the oldest boy. I guess I had to try to do something from a man's perspective, but I didn't know what that looked like. Right. So thank you for my grandfather in that area. But anyway, make a long story short, Went to Saint Sabina when I was younger, right, which is great. That was the area, so I fell in love with that area and what Father Flager was doing, and then had the opportunity to, go to Florida A&M University, and that right there showed me so much, honestly, Jocelyn, about the understanding of a network and how to develop a network accordingly. Because there were so many things that I really didn't understand about life, and I'm glad I left. And for transparency, because it opened up my eyes to different cultures and different ways people do things. So when I did come back to Chicago after I graduated with my business degree, I was open minded to how Chicago operates. And I think that really helped me create the network that I have today. They say, which is valuable information for people. Chicago has 77 different neighborhoods. So it's extremely diverse yet segregated, right? So for somebody to understand and mold themselves in that area, or just how to have friends in multiple, you got to be open minded about life and everybody else's. I've always believed in, if you want to, the best way to understand somebody else is listening, not just responding, right? So anyway, make a long story short, from that perspective, I had the opportunity to then work for Bank of America in HR. And during that tenure, I got to this place of stagnation in corporate, to the point I was like, well, what am I going to do next? And I really started to feel that entrepreneur spirit, and started a mentorship platform and got into the e-commerce space from a business perspective, and done extremely well there. And that's been really great for me. Um, and then decided, and that's why I found one of my mentors, right, through that whole experience, and that's when we started True Mentors. So to the point of what you said, where I, was able to essentially help startup entrepreneurs connecting with multimillionaires that they would not have access to, and that was a fun time. That was fun. That was great. Of course, COVID came, and I kind of, I guess, chomped on that, disintegrated that in the way it did. But a lot of good relationships came out of that, and then had the opportunity to be in the banking industry when it comes to talent, and then of course now the energy industry right now currently. So that's kind of my aspect of things. But as I always tell people, life's regardless of where you're at. And that's what has happened to me a few times, right? I started my own dance group, and during that time I had life, right? I went through a foreclosed home situation at 21. My first, which was extremely an aggressive experience, honestly, Jocelyn, because I never understood, like people now tell me, they say like, what would you say with people that's younger? Stay at the house as long as you can until somebody kicks you out, right? Me, I just wanted to try to be on my own, and I learned real quickly, adulting does adult, like so to learn some of those things that I learned from, and actually I was taking advantage of, getting into a house situation I should not have. It really understand that everybody's not for you. That kind of gave me my first inkling of, outside of like what my mom went through, growing up. I mean, she herself tried her very best to raise two boys. But I saw a lot that she had to deal with on her own. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to become successful in multiple areas. But as you grow up in life, you start to realize not every, there's a difference between people in your corner and then people in your circle, right? And I started to realize that extremely quickly from that regard. So but I have been around good people, which is great. They helped mold me and grow me. And then around, let's say, 2021, a lot more life started to happen. Lost my job, just because of the COVID. I think this is probably will relate to a lot of people that as well. Talk about faith on the journey, right? Lost my job, lost my finances, and life got tough. Had a son at 20, and I mean, man, that was the best gift during that tenure. But what ended up becoming, because of the struggles, unwanted divorce, and that was probably the biggest thing to me, honestly, that hindered a man who wants to be successful, wants to be great. If you know anything about Quinton James, he wants to influence 1 billion people. So what and I don't want to put everything on the adversary, but if you can't come to me, you're gonna come to the closest things to me, right? That makes me feel that I want to be great in that area. So I feel like just all of that put me in a place where I had to try to figure stuff out, and I eventually did, and that's why the book exists. So that's kind of a bigger standpoint of it at a high level. Not to We can probably go into the deeds a little bit later, but trying to input 40 years in less than 6 minutes is kind of difficult.
You did good. That's real good. And And Quentin, I got a question though for you because you touched on this, your faith. You know, people may or may not know that that's been an important part of sustaining you through the ups, the downs, the in between. So talk about how your faith played a role in your process of navigating these challenges, healing from these challenges, and talk about what helped you to even grow in your faith during this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, it's funny, and I guess let me speak on a high level of one thing that's probably the most on the heart, or the most the most recent thing that I've overcame. I think that I help out with not just those that are listening, but also, because again, like I tell people that I won't say just mentor, but I connect with often, Jocelyn, is success is for those who handle hard better. Okay. And for me, the most recent was, and I just kind of put on it, when you're a person who grew up around, you see this environment that you're like, okay, I don't want to be like that. You want to be this amazing father, or you have this ideology of what the American household should look like, right? Which is, a mom and a dad with each other for 30, 50, 100,000 years. Y'all got three kids and a dog, probably, right? Or whatever it looks like. And then it comes crashing down to you. I think all of us can then say, why me, right? And that was the most recent, me going through the divorce. And I'll be honest, it hurts men just as much as it hurts women. And when you really want that, and you really want to have that type of experience, and it comes out of left field, and you didn't necessarily know why it came, what happened, what it did, it's this aspect of, what did I do wrong? And there was at a moment where a lot of dirt was getting thrown at me, Jocelyn. Like I was like, I felt like, what, like, seriously. And I'm pretty sure your listeners have had some type of life where you didn't, it's unfair. It's unfair. Like, literally, it's so unfair. Like, you're not the cause of it, but you're the one that has to pick up the pieces. And for me, I was like, all right, this dirt that's thrown in my face, Jocelyn, I have to ask myself this question. Do I want to be buried, or do I want to be planted? And I feel when you realize that you make the decision to be planted, that's where your faith comes into place, because you're not planted at that moment, but you're making a decision to take actions towards that. Part of my book, one parts of it is mapping the unseen. There's a chapter when it comes to that and how that navigates and how you do that. Part of that seriously helped me realize myself. I always say, men, we evolve every 5 years. For every man that's listening to this, you probably say, you absolutely, every 5 years, Jocelyn, we change. Okay. Not a bad thing. It's just, for the good or the bad, that's what it is. But, my faith definitely got tested, because you have to then remember that everything is going to be okay. And that's hard to do, right? You think about the 40 days and the 40 nights, and you think about them going through the wilderness, and you realize that, yeah, the milk and honey is there because that's what was destined for you, right? But when you're going through the wilderness, you don't want to hear that. You just want it to be fixed. It's just like, all right, just fix it, right? But you got to realize you got to go through it. So yes, hands down, I feel like this experience made me get closer to God, because at one point I started to realize that I wanted, you hear when you're younger, you want the person you're with to complete you, and all this other stuff, and I think you're putting too much pressure on somebody to do that. And that was probably where I was wrong in that regard, right? So when you're going through stuff, you can realize, okay, maybe there's places where I could have been better at. But now you're at a place, because you go through it. God is supposed to complete you, but what you're looking for is somebody to compliment you. And so for me, like, that was some of the things that started to come into place, as far as realizing, when you have this faith journey, Hebrews 11:1 is not just a good scripture to say. It's something that you need to actually actively go through, right? You don't necessarily know what it looks like, but at the end of the day, just understand the end result is there. Even Jeremiah 29:11, not to get extremely, I'm not a Bible scholar, but there's certain times when I went through stuff, there's certain scriptures that I stand it on. And Jeremiah 29:11, right, which we already know, for he knows the plans that he has for you is not to harm you, but for you to prosper. Well, if that's a promise that he is supposed to prosper you in every way, the harm is temporary. the harm is temporary. The harm is gonna, it's part of life, so you can know exactly how good things can happen. So, I mean, I could keep going in it, man, but it was definitely an experience I didn't expect, because life does give you a conveyor belt of challenges, but your faith can definitely help you through it all for sure.
I want to thank you, Q, for a number of things that you said in there were gems. And I also want to thank you for just being honest about the struggles, particularly for men, because sometimes people might think that men don't struggle or cry or go through, but y'all do go through these things. And so I appreciate you for your authenticity there, Quentin. So we're actually going to take a break, a quick commercial break. And when we get back, we're going to talk about this amazing book that Quentin has written, or we call him Diamond Q has written. It relates to 52 ways to get your you fill in the blank together. So we'll be right back after this commercial break.
The trauma healing has actually given us an opportunity to truly share some of the pain that we've gone through that has caused us to be in this place.
I think the use of scripture and truth, along with stories that are relatable, begin to start the dialogue for women to be able to recognize and be able to connect the fact that he is in their circumstances with whatever situation.
With this trauma healing groups, we've been able to see people shed their masks and really just open up and share things that they too didn't even realize. And
the transformation from the participants really included just being able to bring their heart to Jesus.
What's amazing is some of them came with particular hurts or wounds that they wanted to share.
It allowed me to be free with some deep-rooted things that I never spoke, and know that it was all right for me to speak them.
Being able to recognize their emotions from the very start.
There was no judgment. It more or less said that this is okay, that this is what's needed.
Just the power from being in the room with other women, recognizing that it's okay to share our hurts. It's good to be able to recognize what is a safe place and to be able to take all of those hurts to the cross.
They realized it's something different that they were there to share. And they found healing in ways that they didn't expect.
But once I got to that place of understanding how this kind of really does work, I had a moment of complete release. In that release, I was able to truly open up, even if it wasn't to anyone but to me and God, but to truly open up about some of the things that I had been suppressing or trying to suppress for years.
Every little bit about it is a soft brush stroke that all combines to make just a really beautiful picture. For them to be able to see the different too and have some of the tools that the Trauma Healing Institute implements are very helpful.
I'm always surprised how God is using this. It's a good place to be.
Welcome back from our commercial break, everyone. Now, Quentin, he was sharing some deep stuff here, and now I'm glad that he did, so you can understand some of his formation and his thoughts and what he put his heart and soul into shaping this new book that he has here. Now, Quentin, one of the things that I was like, only Quentin would have a name like 52 ways. You got it for those who are watching it to get your blank together. Now, anyone who is listening to this right now, I swear you probably like, wait, did Reverend Jocelyn bring in a guy who has a curse word in his title? But it really doesn't have a curse word. It really is. You just fill in the blank, but it's so provocative, the name. It is so hilarious, and it's so you, Quentin. So I, first of all, want to ask you, what inspired you to write this book? Talk about it with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I so to your point, like I was telling somebody the other day, asked, why did you create this amazing and they felt it was amazing, which I really was grateful for. And the response that I've mentioned to them is, I'm a believer of the power of positive confession. Hopefully people realize, again, I am a firm believer. I'm extremely spiritual. God is who I definitely follow, Jesus Christ, right? But I'm a firm believer of Proverbs 18:21, life and death is in the power of the tongue. So, if anybody knows anything about me, I always say I'm blessed and never stressed, right? I've been saying that for 20 plus years. And it's interesting where when I say that, you can understand where people's mindset is based off the response that they give me. It's crazy. Whether they're like, oh man, well, I'm blessed, but I'm always stressed. And it's just like, well, you just put that out there. And, so I just realized through some of the turmoil that I went through, some of the situations that I went through recently, some of the things that I had to get through, whether it's, therapy helping me out or my network and my inner circle, so to speak. Some of the things that I started to actually put in the book, I accomplished. It helped me execute effectively. So that's why it's a, again, the blank is whatever you want the blank to be. That, to your point, right, Jocelyn, it is not a curse word. It could be life, it could be business, it could be family, right? It could be whatever. But it's a powerful affirmation calendar and a motivational workbook. So the goal of it is to help you become 1% better every day. And somebody asked me the other day, Josh, they was like, why is 52 because of 52 weeks? And they kind of looked at me when I did this. And I said, no, it's because people are 52% of what they could be. And my hope and prayer is that this book can assist them in that way. So that's what it's for. It's to help us become 1% better. There's so many things in the book that can help you do that, but the goal of it is to help you get your thoughts proper, right? We have 80,000 thoughts a day, and I would say 80% of them are somewhat negative. And people don't realize, and I say it in the book, your thoughts, right, can create your beliefs, and those beliefs create your actions. Those actions create your habits. Those habits is what creates your result in your destiny. So your thoughts, if they're negative, how do you combat negative thoughts? With positive words, right? And that's what the book is there to help you do. So anyway, so that's kind of a foundation of it.
Oh, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. I love it. And one of the chapters in your books or months, because it's broken up into goals for each month, you referenced the winner's circle. Tell me more about that, why you felt that that part was important to include, and talk about how your winner's circle has influenced you.
Absolutely. Oh man, that's powerful, girl. I appreciate that, Jocelyn. It's interesting, and I said the statement earlier. There's a difference between people in your corner and people in your circle. You know, and it's funny. Association is so huge, and a lot of people gonna have you thinking that you need to catch up to them when you've already passed them, and it's an interesting dynamic. So for me, there's a lot of people who really assisted me through my journey, and I think that's part of the faith piece too, right? Like, understand, sometimes people, God either puts people in front of you or put people in your place to assist you, so you can know that He's right there with you, right? Um, it gives a sense of discernment, and that's why I firmly believe, like, trying to do something on your own is the wrong thing. I've never believed, and I'll be honest with you, Jocelyn, I've never been one to believe in independence, because nothing on this earth is created independently. If a person says they're a self-made millionaire, run away from them, right? If you think about, like, now granted, I understand everybody knows Jocelyn. I think she's vegan, vegetarian, more meat for me. Okay, that's how I look at it. But ultimately, if you think about, you know, um, a cow eats grass. Well, it needs the grass to produce. Does that make sense? Right? We eat eggs with it. So it's just like, we all are interdependent. Like, that's the statement that we need people. We are human individuals. So the idle mind is the devil's playground. So the worst thing you can do when you're going through stuff and you're on this journey to be the best person for you is to think you can do it by yourself. That is a selfish way of looking at life. Like, you know what, so I want to preface that, and it creates an amazing and difficult attitude, as far as how you're going to look at life. And I said this statement to somebody the other day, where if you think about medieval times, right? And in the medieval times, there's a lot of dirt, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of rocks and stuff like that. So there was this guy walking to this one person, and he said, "What are you doing with all this dirt and noise and the rocks with the dirt?" And he said, "I got a sledgehammer." And he was like, "I'm just breaking rocks. I'm just breaking rocks," right? He was like, "Okay, all right." So he went to another person too, Jocelyn, and that person, again, dirt, noise, rocks, all this stuff. "What are you doing?" And he was just like, "I'm trying to make ends meet, man. That's why I got slayed. I'm just hitting." Then the third person, he went to him and he was like, "There's dirt, there's noise, there's rocks, a lot of what are you doing? And he was like, with this sledgehammer, I'm building a cathedral. I firmly believe whatever your attitude is based off the atmosphere of the people that you're around. Even when you're going through stuff, if the people around you have an attitude of altitude or an attitude of like, hey, listen, there's resilience, or hey, you're going to have endurance, or they speak life into you even when you're going through stuff, there's no way you can find a positive outlook being around dirty people. And I firmly feel like if someone around you is giving you that notion of woe is me, or they want you to stay settled, because there's a moment where you got to have a pity party when you're going through stuff. That's part of life. You're human. But if you're in it for 3 months, if you're in the wilderness and forget that there's milk and honey on the other side, but you have people want you to stay in that, they're not the right people. So that's why I say, like, if you're around a dirty atmosphere, you may want to start walking a little bit out of the wilderness. But that's part of why the winner's circle is there, so you can know what that looks like.
Mhm, mhm. I completely agree. And this kind of leads me into my next question because talking about changing things up, you talked about in your book a powerful embrace and you speak of embracing change. Why is embracing change incredibly important to do?
Oh man, it's extremely important, even though all of us don't want it, right? You're used to what you're used to. Um, change. The only thing that's I say in the book, the only thing that's constant is change, right? The only thing that's constant is change. And I feel that we can get to a place of complacency where you'll never know how great you can be unless you do. Let me give you all a good example of what I mean by that. Again, Quentin wants to influence 1 billion people. And I go through this whole unwanted divorce experience. And yes, I went through the same thing that you all feel. But what's now on the other side, I started to realize over 50% of people end up in divorce. So, what's crazy about that? On the other side of it, because of the change, because of what I went through, because I was able to get through it, I have a stronger empathetic feeling. I know how it feels. I can now impact 50% more people that I wouldn't have able to have it to impact if I didn't go through that change. Not that God put me through it, because he didn't. But the resilience to go through it. Like, change helps you become resilient. Change helps you become to see what you're made of. Like, the human spirit is the toughest thing. It's not materials. It's the human spirit that's tougher than anything else out there. And that's why my favorite phrase, you talked about it earlier, right? Which is, achievement is not for the fastest. Achievement is not for the strongest. Achievement is for the one who endures. In order for you to endure, you need to express, you need to be willing and want change. It's not a bad thing. It makes you better. But because we're so okay with being okay, that's why we're not okay with change. So yeah, the powerful embrace is important. I think it's probably the most difficult chapter for most people because it's a reflection, more than anything. But yeah, even to this day, change is hard. You don't want to change nothing at your job. You want to do less and make more. So entrepreneurs, they change all the time. If you're an entrepreneur, change is called pivoting. Okay. That's what you do. You changing something. Why? Because it ain't working. Okay. So it's all part of it. You know what I mean? But change is important to live the life that you're destined to live.
Absolutely, absolutely. And let's talk about the life that you're destined to live because one of the other chapters or part of your books that I think is important to talk about is vision. You talk about vision casting, vision boarding, things of that nature. And so how has that played a role in your life? And talk about the reason why you felt it was important to put in the book.
Yeah, yeah. That actually is in chapter Mapping the Unseen. That's exactly where it is, right? Um, you know, so here's a statement that my mentor, I don't say one of the many now, because the older you get, you don't have as many as you used to when you were younger. Everybody was your mentor. You just wanted to learn from people. Right now, it's like, no, you got a few and you got some distant ones and some, right? But for people, this year, my year for myself is people focused, purpose driven, and mission led. So I firmly believe the only reason why a man, I could say people, but I'm gonna just say from a man's perspective, we are not what we're called to be is because we don't have two things. We don't know why we exist, and potentially we don't have a supportive spouse, right? That's in Think and Grow Rich, right? So obviously, I read a lot. But the one thing I would say when it comes to vision, my one of my mentors came up to me. He's like, Quentin, understand. It says, without a vision, people perish. He didn't say a person, he said people. Because if you don't have a vision, there's a ripple effect that by default you are supposed to give to others because you are looking and you're forward thinking. And it's people. So for me, that's part of the reason why I feel like having a vision is so important, is because you don't get into the minutia of the boulders that hem in your life. You realize that's just part of your journey, right? That's part of you becoming better, because there's somebody else that will go through those same boulders and they will say to you, how did you do it? Because they look up to you. And how unfortunate would it be if you say, I don't have an answer? How unfortunate would it be out there, Faith of the Journey listeners, if you say, you know what, I didn't make it through. I just quit. It was too hard. That's why I said success is for those who handle hard better. So yes, absolutely. But vision makes you remember that it takes time to be great at anything. If you're let's talk about a farmer sowing seeds. I'm pretty sure everybody's heard this type of statement before, right? We've always been told is what? Seed time and then what? Harvest time. Yeah, that's completely wrong. There's a cultivation period in that. I've never seen a seed all of a sudden become a crop. I've never seen a seed all of a sudden be an apple. There's a season of cultivation that comes through that, right? Well, that's the journey. We already know it's going to be this phenomenal tree that's going to give multiple a ripple effect of apples or whatever it's supposed to become. But as long as you remember what you're destined to be, all of the things in that journey is just part of your story. So that's why a vision is so important, because we could be so okay in the minutia of every day that we forget how great we're supposed to be. And that's the unfortunate as that's why vision is so needed. And when you don't have a vision, you don't just perish. A lot of other people do. I mean, you've heard, I mean, Jocelyn, you talk to a lot of people, you've spoke on stages. So I'm pretty sure you've heard this type of statement before. The worst place, but yet the best place to see all the potential is in graveyard. There you go. Thank you. It's in the graveyard. Absolutely. Right. That's where because a lot of people were not meant to be where they were supposed to be. Right. So yeah, that's why I said influencing 1 billion people for me. That's why I'm people focused, purpose driven, and mission led. It has nothing to do with me. It's will I get to a billion? I don't know. But the billion is big enough for me to try for the rest of my life. And at the end of my life, if I got there, I did it. God, thank you, Jesus. If I didn't get there, God, Quentin used his whole life trying to influence a billion. And you know what? I'm pretty sure because of the ripple effect, eventually it'll come. So,
That is good stuff. And yes, I'm gonna have to get you back. I'm gonna get you back when I have a studio built out so we could talk in person, right? And be face to face with it. But in the meantime, I want you to tell people my last question for you is what is if you had one major takeaway that you want to make sure that each person gets from your book, what would that be?
wow. Yeah, that's difficult because I think everybody gets something different. You know, I, I just want people to realize that they matter. I think that's the biggest thing. Like you matter. You matter to so many people. Um, Anybody that's listening to this and you feel like you're not meant to be great in this life, please do not let the adversary or anybody negative take that away from you. You got to remember that you fought before you got here to get into your mother's womb. You got to remember that you was a fighter when you first got started. You got to remember you overcame a lot of things with God's support. A statement that I always want to express to people. We've always said God will never put more on you than you can bear. And I don't believe in that mantra necessarily, because if he didn't put more on you, then you wouldn't need him. So understand, like, a lot of the things that you're going through, it's probably a sign for God to just kind of you and him center together, but it's because you matter. If he felt you didn't matter, he would not put you in places where you use him so you can give him the praise that he desires to have, so others can know that's the reason why you succeeded, because you just never know what that can do. So I just want people to know that they matter, man. You matter when you're on the good side of everything you're going through. You matter when you're going through the crap, and you mattered when you made it. You mattered back then, and you still matter now. You mattered back then if you were born in 1985 like myself, or earlier for everyone else. Everybody's seasoned on this thing, right? But you matter even for those who are coming below you. And that's the thing. Like even our generation, the generation about, they don't realize that they matter. So I think the book will let you know that you matter, and hopefully it helps you get your blank together, whatever that is. So
Get your blank together, people. Get your blank together. And where can they find out the master? How can they get a copy of getting your blank together? Where can they go, Quentin?
Absolutely. Well, one, if you want, you could DM me on Instagram, Diamond Q James. That's perfectly fine. You can go on Amazon. It's on Amazon as well. If you look up Quinton James or 52 Ways on How to Get Your Blank Together, that'll pop up. If you for those Kindlers, those people who like Kindle is on there too. Okay, all right. I call them Kindlers because that's what they are. But 52 Ways. You can look up Quinton James, Quinton James. It should pop up for you. But yeah, and if if y'all need me for anything else or any opportunities, y'all can always connect through Jocelyn to me, and I can support in multiple different ways. Again, with my 20 years of experience, I've been able to help a lot of people get better jobs. So I do speak on career advancement and what that looks like for people. So if that's something if people are interested in that area, that's something that I'm obviously I've done really well in. I think right now, and not someone else came to me. He was like, Quentin, just based off of like this past 3 years, you've helped enough people making no more than almost $1 million of revenue extra. And that's cool to hear because I was like, I didn't know that, they pointed the people that I helped and how much more money they made from nothing to 150 grand or nothing to now 350,000. So, or just making an extra 30, 40,000 and whatnot. So to hear that I've been able to help people get better jobs, that's an awesome experience. So, if y'all want me in any way capacity, you can connect with Jocelyn, but that's how you can get the book.
Awesome, Quentin. Well, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
I did too. And you're the bomb.com. Listen, everybody, listen to me. Please, when y'all hear this, it is so imperative to have your ear gates and your eye gates to the right type of people. And if you never know what place to go to, a woman who's able to invest into your ear gates properly and your eye gates accordingly, that's somebody you can follow. So, Jocelyn, I want to say to you, and I'm pretty sure your listeners would also concur, that you are doing God's work in the way that you're supposed to. And I'm extremely blessed to have you as a friend for, as you said, multiple decades, making us sound like we're like 50 out here. But or whatever. Nothing wrong being 50 if you are out there. But I just want to say you are doing some phenomenal things, and I'm blessed to know you. So I appreciate you as well.
Thank you, Quentin. Same to you, brother. I'm very proud of you and thank you for being on the show. You blessed my listeners today.
Absolutely. Stay blessed and never stress, you guys.
That's right. That's right. You heard it from the man, y'all. And this book is definitely a resource for you to get down and dirty and do the work, reflecting prompts, affirmations, thought provoking questions. And so I encourage you to visit Amazon.com to get that information. We'll put a direct link in the show notes. And that is it for this week's episode of Faith on the Journey. I hope you were blessed by it. And if you were, you know what to do. Subscribe and share it with a friend. And if you really loved it, leave a review. Also, if you're looking for a Christian counselor, please visit our website at faithonthejourney.org. Again, that is faithonthejourney.org. So that's it for this week, family. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, you stay encouraged and you keep your faith on the journey. I'll see you soon, family.